Welcome to the Explainer. Okay, today we are diving straight into a massive, honestly fascinating topic. We're going to explore exactly how large-scale business software is structured, designed, and maintained over time. We're talking about enterprise application architecture. Basically, this is the blueprint that turns a fragile, messy piece of code into a rock-solid, long-term business asset.
So here's our roadmap for today. We'll be going beyond the simple app, looking at the layered architecture model, diving into core business concepts and modules, connecting things up with integrations and APIs, locking it all down with security and scale, and finally going over how to avoid the absolute most common architecture mistakes.
All right, part one, beyond the simple app.
Let's start by establishing what makes building enterprise software such an incredibly demanding task compared to the consumer apps we all use on our phones every single day. There's a massive difference in scale and expectation here. A simple app is built to just work for a really straightforward journey, right? You open it up, search for a product, add it to your cart, pay, and you're done. But when we pivot to an enterprise system, say an HR platform or a massive procurement system, it has to handle entirely conflicting stakeholder needs. The finance team wants tight controls and accuracy. Operations wants raw speed. And compliance, well, they want bulletproof audit records. It's not just about creating and deleting data anymore. We're talking about automating incredibly complex business processes for thousands of users under rules that are constantly evolving.
So the crucial point here is that architecture is the necessary antidote to all that business complexity. Without a rigidly defined structure outlining exactly where your logic lives and how your data flows, every single new business requirement just becomes a quick, messy patch. And over time, those patches turn into massive technical debt. That technical debt becomes system fragility, and system fragility very quickly becomes a massive business risk. Good architecture ensures the application can actually evolve safely as the business changes.
Moving right along to part two, the layered architecture model. So how do we actually organize all that chaos? Well, a really common approach is through a classic layered architecture. By dividing the system into these specific, dedicated layers, we cleanly separate responsibilities. You've got your presentation layer, which is what the user actually sees, while the application layer coordinates the sequence of steps for any given task. Then you have the domain layer holding the actual business rules, and the data access layer handling storage, along with integration, infrastructure, security, and observability. This clean separation is absolutely crucial. It ensures, for instance, that incredibly complex international tax rules aren't somehow getting tangled up in the code that simply renders your user interface. Every single layer has a clear, highly specific job.
And this really hits the nail on the head. The ultimate philosophy here is simple. The goal is clarity, not complexity. Layering shouldn't just be this excessive, bureaucratic red tape that slows your developers down. Not at all. It's there to make the system easier to test, easier to maintain, easier to secure, and much easier to evolve over the next 5, 10, or even 20 years.
Which brings us to part three, core business and modules.
At the very heart of that layered structure we just talked about is the domain layer. This is where the core business concepts actually live, and it is the literal heartbeat of your software. And naturally, it completely shifts based on your industry. Think about it. If you're building a healthcare system, your domain model is built entirely around patients, prescriptions, and care plans. If it's procurement, it's all about suppliers and purchase orders. The big takeaway here is that the domain layer captures true business meaning. It shouldn't just look like a boring list of database tables. It has to guarantee that the software model perfectly matches the operational reality of the business. Because when your software model reflects your actual business model, maintenance becomes significantly easier.
But how do you manage all these domains as the system inevitably grows? Well, you have to organize them into modules. You group related features around a specific business capability, like having one separate module just for payments and another just for HR. Now, here is a crucial warning for you. Beware of jumping to microservices way too early. A lot of teams get excited and try to split everything into independent microservices right out of the gate. But without strong boundaries and serious organizational maturity, that almost always leads to distributed chaos instead of clean architecture. Starting with a well-organized modular monolith is very often the smartest play.
Okay, part 4, integrations, APIs, and workflows. We have our modules and layers sorted out, but an enterprise system is never an island, right? We have to connect things, which brings us to APIs. When you're designing APIs, you really have to shift your mindset. Poorly designed APIs just expose your internal database details to the world. Bad API thinking is just, hey, update this table row.
Good API thinking is approve purchase request. See the difference? APIs need to reflect actual business actions. If you just expose your internal database structure in your API, then every single time you tweak your database, you literally break the connection for all your external clients. And nobody wants that.
But APIs only handle short, quick technical transactions. What about long-running processes? Take a standard loan application workflow. You upload a document, someone verifies your identity, there's a credit check, an underwriter has to review it, and finally there's an approval. That whole sequence could take days or even weeks. You absolutely cannot treat that like a simple API request. Long-running business processes require a dedicated workflow engine built right into your architecture to manage states, track deadlines, and handle human tasks.
And as we connect these intricate workflows to external systems, like linking our app to a payment gateway, an old legacy ERP system, or some government database, we have to ask a really tough question. Why is integration so incredibly hard?
Honestly, it's hard because the real world is incredibly unpredictable. The biggest mistake architects make is assuming integrations will always just work perfectly. But out there in the wild, third-party systems constantly go down, APIs time out, data formats change without warning, passwords literally just expire, networks break. Your architecture must be specifically designed to survive these external disruptions gracefully. You need retries, timeouts, and asynchronous processing so that one broken third-party service doesn't take down your entire enterprise application.
Let's dive into part 5, security, scale, and support.
Now, we need to explore the essential layers that fortify the system so it can actually survive in that unpredictable real world we just talked about. Security in enterprise software is incredibly demanding. It goes way, way beyond just slapping a login screen on the front page. Listen, simply hiding an approve button on the user interface from someone who doesn't have the right permissions, that is not real security. If a savvy user figures out how to bypass the UI and sends a request directly to the back end, your system absolutely must block it. This requires strict, actively enforced role-based access controls deep within the application layer itself.
To sustain the system long-term, you need to fortify it across the board. You need auditability, meaning tamper-resistant logs that prove exactly who changed what and when. That is vital for compliance. You also need to separate your reporting workloads into distinct analytical databases. Think about it. If someone runs a massive multi-year report on your live operational database, it could literally slow down the system for everyone else. For scale, heavy tasks like sending thousands of emails need to happen as asynchronous background jobs. And finally, observability. Your support teams need dedicated dashboards, logs, and metrics so they can actually diagnose issues when a user complains, without having to beg a developer to manually query the database for them.
And finally, part 6, avoiding common architecture mistakes. We've covered a ton of ground today. Let's wrap up with a rapid-fire list of fatal mistakes you absolutely must avoid, otherwise all this careful planning will just collapse in on itself. First, treating your database tables as the entire architecture. Tables aren't enough, you need proper domain logic. Second, putting business logic in the UI. That creates massive security and maintenance nightmares. Third, jumping into microservices way too early. Fourth, naively assuming integrations will never fail. Fifth, mixing up heavy reporting with everyday transactional workloads and destroying your performance. And lastly, completely ignoring your internal support tooling, which means your app will be an absolute nightmare to manage once it finally goes live. Avoid these like the plague.
Ultimately, enterprise application architecture is not about drawing beautiful, complicated diagrams. It's about designing software that can handle the raw, chaotic complexity of real businesses over a long period of time. It's about building a highly adaptable business asset. Which leaves us with this final, critical thought for your next big software build. Is your system built to just work for today? Or is it truly built to evolve for tomorrow? Keep that in mind next time you lay down a blueprint. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I hope this helps you build stronger, much smarter systems.